What if an alien biologist from outer space visited Earth? Imagine he was looking for the most intelligent of our planet's tens of millions of species. He'd probably start with the apes. They all seem pretty smart. A chimpanzee can do most of the things a 2.5-year-old human child can. If he compared their DNA, our alien investigator would discover they're almost identical. Biologically, he wouldn't hesitate to classify us humans as just another kind of chimp. But if he'd stayed and watched the way humans live and behave, he'd soon have seen a huge gulf between our capabilities and those of all the other apes. He'd have seen billions and billions of us dominating the Earth. How did that happen? How did we, Homo sapiens, become so different? In this program, we're going to take a 5 million year journey from tree-living apes to modern man. We're going to meet our closest living relatives and discover how we used our hands to get ahead. Following in our ancestors' footsteps, we're going to see how we came up against some very serious design flaws. Why giving birth is so hard for us. Why for so many years we could do little more than grunt. And how talking is worth risking our lives for. When we open our mouths to speak, there's a chance we could choke. We'll find out how the human race almost became extinct and what it was that saved us. And we'll be looking into the future, when by taking control of our evolution, we may be able to create perfect humans and even defy the aging process. Homo sapiens, both man and animal, the hairless ape. Yet we're so different from all other animals on the planet. Where did we come from? For thousands of years, we turned to the supernatural for the answer. But there is another scientific explanation, that we gradually evolved into what we are now over millions of years. The big clues to our past come from chimpanzees, our closest living relatives. All these chimps have been rescued from the bushmeat trade in Cameroon. They're now looked after by Dieudonné here, who has a very special relationship with them. The more we study chimps, the more we realize just how much we have in common. The evidence that shows we really are descended from a chimp-like ancestor is deep within the workings of our bodies, in our genes. 99% of our genes are exactly the same as theirs. What's the story in that 1% difference that's taken us from ape to man? In the beginning, it had nothing to do with brain power. Between 4 and 5 million years ago, our ancestors started to spend more time on the ground. Two very different strategies emerged. Chimps evolved walking on their knuckles as a way of getting around. Their hands stayed thick and solid to bear their weight. We took a more radical approach. The first step in our journey was just that. We stood up on 2 legs. Since then, we've never looked back. But our brains weren't as big as they are today. "5 million years ago, they were much smaller, the same size as the chimps. So why was walking upright such a crucial step? By putting all our weight on our feet, we freed up our hands to do other things. The chimps here have been playing with Dieudonné's shoelaces for years. There seems to be an element of competition. The chimps never give up. They tie themselves in knots trying to get it right. However hard they practice, though, they can't compete with us. As we all know, learning to tie your shoelaces is more complicated than it looks. And chimps just don't have what it takes. A delicate, precision grip between finger and thumb. Our thumbs are longer and more flexible than those of chimps. So our hands have become precision instruments which we can use in an extraordinary variety of ways. Our ancestors didn't acquire this new anatomy overnight. It also took an important change in the climate to make this evolutionary leap away from the chimps. It was then that we parted company. The chimps stayed in the trees, while we walked out onto the newly formed African savanna. The climate change suited our ancestors very well. Over the next few million years, it got drier and drier, completely transforming the landscape from thick forest into open plains. As our ancestors used their hands more and more for holding things, it led us to the next big landmark on our journey. the creation of tools. Some of the earliest have been found in caves just like this. All these tools were very simple and also very similar. This was state-of-the-art technology 2.5 million years ago. It's actually a kind of ape man's penknife. This cutting edge almost matches that of steel. The basic design didn't change for 1 million years. So around 5,000 generations of hominids would have handled tools just like these. It's remarkable when you think how much modern technology, like the mobile phone, has moved on in just the last 10 years. Today, one person could have owned all these different types of phones. But that didn't mean that the ancient tool users were standing still. Once we'd left the trees for the plains, we had a new challenge to face. We were not alone. Taking a walk on the savannah on your own is asking for trouble, and it gets more dangerous the darker it becomes. Because this is the domain of the big cats. At night, baboons try to find a hiding place. They stick close together and, if they can, take refuge in a tree. But when they hear a leopard coming, they still panic because they can't see well at night. The leopard aims to terrorize the troop into breaking ranks. Once separated from the rest, a baboon's a sitting target. Imagine what it would have been like for our ancestors out here, 24 hours a day, trying to keep their families safe from wild animals. This is no place for a soft, defenseless human to be out late on their own. And there's solid evidence to show we humans really were under attack. Again, the clues lie deep in ancient caves. Ape man's skulls have been found with holes in them that exactly match the teeth of leopard, hyena, and saber-toothed tiger. One cave contained the remains of over 300 baboons and 150 ape men. Between 1 and 3 million years ago, our ancestors were being torn apart and eaten by big cats. Even by day, life here is no walk in the park. But at least baboons, like us, can see much better in the daylight. They live in large troops, which means many pairs of eyes to spot a threat, and more combined force to fight off a predator. Safety in numbers gives baboons surprising confidence. In fact, they're downright cocky. For our ancestors too, sticking together was the best way to avoid ending up as cat food. The communal life created new challenges. and forced us to really start using our brains. Living together brings a whole new element, a social life. But the bigger your group, the bigger your social problems can be. You need a bigger brain to cope. In a group, working at friendships and alliances is crucial. You need to remember who's who and what's what. You need to be a diplomat, so you don't get on the wrong side of those with more powerful weapons than you. A single social gaffe can be disastrous. As we too began to live in larger groups for safety, so our brains evolved to cope. And our brains continued to get bigger, almost 4 times bigger, so our skulls had to get larger too. And this gave us our next challenge. Because being the 2-legged brain boxes of the savannah now gave us a problem our 4-legged friends didn't have. Take wildebeest. Because they walk on all 4s, they can afford to have wide hips. That makes giving birth quick and easy, important with so many predators around. Although the baby wildebeest is big, its brain and skull are quite small in relation to its body size, so it can slip out easily. But for humans, birth is where we pay the price for our big brain. If we move from the Kenyan plains to the city of Nairobi and look at the physique of modern woman, we can see why. The best design for walking upright is a slender body with narrow hips. But narrow hips are the worst possible design for giving birth to big-brained humans. This was perhaps the biggest stumbling block we humans faced in our whole journey of life. We were stuck. Until evolution came up with a surprising solution. Unlike almost all other mammals, our skull isn't fully formed at birth. A human baby's head is soft and pliable, allowing it to pass down the narrow birth canal. During the first 12 months of life, the bony skull plates gradually fuse together to protect the brain. In effect, we're all born premature. So for the first few months, a human baby is extremely vulnerable, requiring constant care. But the payoff, a giant brain, far outweighs the risk. Another biological problem solved. So 300,000 years ago, big-brained man, Homo sapiens, arrived. We can see the evidence of our greater intelligence in the new technology that early ape men never had. a more sophisticated toolkit. Which includes spear points, as well as a variety of scrapers and cutters for butchering meat. Found alongside those tools was a simple lump of rock that would lead to the great masterpieces of the future. It's ochre, crumbly iron oxide. This piece was found in Blombos Cave near Cape Town in South Africa and is at least 70,000 years old. What's amazing is that it's engraved. This abstract etching is the first recorded work of art. It marks the roots of what we now call culture or civilization. And this pig's jawbone might even offer a clue to when religion first began. It was discovered in the same grave as an early human, and it's dated at more than 100,000 years old. It's the earliest evidence of ritual burial. The act of carefully burying a body with other objects suggests that those people believed that death wasn't the end, that the spirit lived on. Art and religion set us apart from the rest of the animal kingdom and led to our great civilizations. Many scientists believe that the trigger for these extraordinary breakthroughs was something we all take for granted: language.
This was where the main Palm Sunday procession took place.
From fossils, scientists know that our voice box, or larynx, was much higher up in our ancestors than it is today. It's still in this position in the chimps and other apes. If this was still the same for us, apart from the odd grunt or two, we wouldn't have the power of speech. But around 200,000 years ago, our larynx dropped to where it is today, allowing us to make more complex sounds. This is when we started to talk. But why is talking so important to the story of the human race? You can find a clue back in West Africa. These chimps are collecting nuts to eat. They have to use a rock to crack open the shells. And they pick up these skills by copying. The young ones learn by watching their mothers closely. In Britain, children also gather nuts, but not to eat, to play with. These are chestnuts, or conkers. Like the chimps, The younger children learn by copying the older ones, handing down skills across the generations. The difference is that it can take a young chimp 6 years to perfect its nut-cracking technique. We humans, on the other hand, can use a shortcut.
Oh, that's a nice little conker. Don't eat it, though. Don't put it in the pile.
We can teach even very young children simply by talking to them.
Are you opening them with your heels?
Yeah.
Are you? It's much easier to do it like that, isn't it?
Bye-bye. In there. Don't eat
So they can learn a new technique for opening the conkers instantly.
Go on, Lucy, go see your mummy.
And with language, we continue to learn new tricks all our lives. By 100,000 years ago, we were solving problems by talking together. We were using our big brains to communicate with each other as never before. But talking gave us another biological problem, and this one still hasn't been solved. Let's look at the chimps in Cameroon again. Chimps breathe mostly through their nose and hardly ever through their mouth. They use their mouth almost entirely for feeding. So air goes down one way, food another. For humans, though, it's a different story. Remember how, as a child, you were told not to talk with your mouth full? Well, there's a very good reason for this.